The Atlanta Falcons need to fire Jimmy Lake right now. Now, if you expected a video where I was going to say the defense is not that bad, the Atlanta Falcons defense is not that bad, and Jimmy Lake is in, he's doing all right. This is not the video for you, because in this video, I'm going to tell you why exactly Jimmy Lake needs to be fired and how he is underperforming in regards to expectations for this team. Now, when it comes down to what is going on in Atlanta Falcons and why this subject is being brought up, it has to do with the 38-6 loss against the Denver Broncos. And more specifically, the way the defense played. I don't think the offense played well by no means, and that needs to be addressed on another video. But right now, we need to address the defense and them giving up 38 points to a rookie quarterback who doesn't really have any household names at the wide receiver, running back, or tight end position. 38 points that this team put up on the Atlanta Falcons. I digress. Now, going forward, just want to read you some of Bo Nix's stats and why watching that game, I was like, what is going on with this Atlanta Falcons defense? And ultimately, why I'm saying now the Atlanta Falcons need to fire Jimmy Lake ASAP. Now, in terms of Bo Nix, he was 85% from a completion rating. 85%. He threw for 307 yards. He was 28 of 33 with 4 touchdowns. He just put up all pro numbers against the Atlanta Falcons in a year where he has been a 14 TD, 6 interception kind of guy. And I think that is prior to after the Falcons game. So before the Falcons game, he was a 10 touchdown, 6 interception guy. At best, he had a 55.4% passer rating, and we made him look like Patrick Mahomes. Which is why I'm saying this defense needs to be addressed ASAP. More specifically, watching the game, not putting up numbers, it seemed like every time the Atlanta Falcons blitzed, they either got home, forced the they didn't get home, we'll say that. They either got there, pressured, and forced an incompletion, or forced an errant throw. So why in critical downs were we sitting back in zone coverage? It doesn't even have to be Bo Nix. If you give any quarterback the amount of time they need, plus you running the same style of defense, drop 3, drop 4, eventually offensive coordinators and quarterbacks will figure out the scheme. And for time and play after play, it seemed like Jimmy Lake just was like, all right, we'll just run it back. I'll just keep everything in front of us and allow them to tackle, and that did not happen. I know we're missing key players in the secondary, but there was no variation to the defensive calling. And the rare occasions he blitzed on third down, Bo Nix didn't complete the pass. Who would have thought? Moving on. So what can the Atlanta Falcons do going forward? But more specifically, what has the Atlanta Falcons done in the past? And what is making me say Jimmy Lake needs to be done in the ATL? Now this year, these year stats up until this game, what is this, game 11? Here are the stats for the Atlanta Falcons. So they're 20th overall. They give up 23.6 points per game, which is 20th. Their passing yards, they're 24th. They give up 223 yards per game, which is due to that style of defense they play, which is not working. Rushing yards, 129th, 20th in the league. And then sacks, they are at a whopping 10 sacks, which is dead last in the league by a long shot. I mean, and the key, the issue with that I'm saying is, they have players on this team, which I'll talk about, that are used to getting sacks. They have Pro Bowlers who have made the Pro Bowl based upon the amount of sacks they've gotten. But that's neither here nor there. The most interesting stat of this year's defense, I would have to say, is teams are 42.8 run success on early downs. That means on early downs, They get an X amount of yards. That makes their third down attempts easier, and that's 26th in the league. That means that if you're playing Atlanta Falcons, you can get 3, 4, 5, 6 yards on the first 2 downs, and it'll be 3rd and 3 every time. And you know what? 3rd and 3 is easier to convert than 3rd and 9. Moving on. Last year's defense was significantly better. And I want to say this out here. This was a defense without Justin Simmons. This was a defense without Matthew Judon. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Same defense. Other than that, same defense. That's all I'm saying. Last year, this defense was 11th overall, giving up 21.9 points per game. Their passing yards per game was 200. They gave up only 200 passing yards per game, which was 8th, and they had 42 sacks in 17 games, compared to our 10 sacks in 11 games. Let that sink in. Now, some of you may be in the comments saying, okay, we knew Ryan Nielsen is a better defensive coordinator, and the scheme is different than the scheme with the LA Rams. So let's look at Raheem Morris's scheme last year and see what was the difference there. And let me tell you this. The Rams last year were 20th, so the same that the Atlanta Falcons are this year. But do you know the key difference between the LA Rams last year and the Atlanta Falcons this year? The LA Rams had 2 Pro Bowlers on the team. They had this guy named Aaron Donald, who they quadruple teamed every play. And they had this guy named Jalen Ramsey, who was in and out of the lineup. The Atlanta Falcons have currently, talent-wise, 4 Pro Bowlers on the team in every phase of the defense. But also, they could have a potential 5th Pro Bowler in A.J. Terrell. So they have the talent of 5 Pro Bowlers on the team. And you know what the difference between the LA team this year and the Falcons team this year in regards to defensive standings? Nothing. And you can tell me this. And you can look down the roster. The LA Rams team last year didn't have a quarter of the talent that the Atlanta Falcons defense has this year. And for the fact that they are equivalent in terms of ranking is a travesty. And it is a direct result of the play call and the unwilling to be different, and just the abysmal thought and game planning that is being presented by Jimmy Lake. And I'm telling you this, and I'll tell you this right now before I leave, before everything else. Going forward, if the Atlanta Falcons do not make a change, starting with Jimmy Lake, this team will not only miss out on what they're supposed to be this year, but it will impact the future of the Atlanta Falcons in such a negative way that this organization, this group of individuals, will be out of a job in 3 years. So I tell you this, Raheem Morris, Terry Fontenot, I don't know, Arthur Blank, whoever, get Jimmy Lake out of this office. Let Raheem call the defensive plays, and I guarantee you will be in a better situation going forward for the future. Because Jimmy Lake, regardless of what you say, is not getting the job done, and he's done that all throughout this year. And as we've gone on, the team and their defense have gotten worse and worse and worse. And for those fans who just are using their eye test, the eye test isn't lying. This defense is terrible and is a direct result of the person calling the plays every down. But if you agree or disagree, please leave a comment down below. Let me know. And if you want to see more videos like this, check this one out right here. And like always, peace.